Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to give you 7 tips to using your goal setting planner. You have a goal planner that you are going to use in 2023. How do you follow through on that? I'm going to give you some tips to make sure that you get the most out of your goal planner that you have chosen for 2023. Tip number 1 is to get into a rhythm of checking in with it. When I first lived, like the first year I used my power sheets, I actually had a goal to use the power sheets. Like I had to set a goal to use that tool because I wanted to get the most out of it. One of the hardest things about having a goal planner is it is possibly a whole additional planner. And so you have to get into the rhythm and routines of checking in with it on a regular basis. Now, every single planner is gonna have a different cadence. Are you updating your goals weekly? Are you updating them monthly? Are you updating them quarterly? Whatever the cadence is for your specific planner, you've gotta schedule in that time to work on those refreshes and those check-in points. So you definitely need to schedule in time for those refreshes, but then you also need some sort of rhythm of checking in with it on a more regular basis, because one of the biggest reasons that we don't achieve our goals is we forget about them. I literally got a text from a Patreon member yesterday that was like, I always get so excited when I start new goals and then I forget about them. It's true. Sometimes we don't follow through because we just simply forget. I would recommend, and this might scare some of you away, checking in with your goal planner on a daily basis at the beginning. Especially if it is your first time really setting goals, checking in with it on a daily basis doesn't take more than a minute, but just checking in, reminding yourself of what your goals are, checking off any progress that you made the prior day, and just getting into that habit of looking at the planner is really going to be beneficial. Tip number 2 is to not compare yourself. This one is hard because I struggle with this as well, even after years and years of setting goals and sharing them on the internet. We are so quick to compare our goals to other people's goals. We are so quick to say, well, their goals are better than mine, or they have that goal, so I should have that goal, or they're making more progress than me, or we have the same goal, but they have different action steps. There is no one right goal to pick. There is no one right way to achieve our goals. The worst thing we can do is to compare ourselves with other people. And I know that's contradictory because I also think there's a lot of benefit to sharing our goals and our journey and our progress. But if the comparison hurts you more than the sharing, then I don't want you in those communities, right? Like we had this conversation once on a Patreon Q&A call about like the perfect planner pages, right? You join these Facebook groups for any of these goal planners, and the people that typically share in these Facebook groups, they share pictures of their pages. They're so perfect. All the colors are perfect. The handwriting is perfect. It all just looks so like beautiful. It looks like a piece of art. And that's awesome. If that is what works for them and it makes them happy, it helps them achieve their goals, and then they want to share it with everybody else, I love that. I love that for them. But if seeing those kinds of pages makes you feel like your goals are not good enough or your pages are too messy, don't look at them. I think it can sometimes be more detrimental than beneficial if all you're doing is comparing your journey to other people's or what your planner looks like to other people's. Nobody has to see your planner but you, right? It doesn't matter as long as it works for you. Same thing with what your goals actually are. Do not compare what you have chosen to be important to you to be a goal in 2023 with what other people have chosen to be their goals for the new year. And then same thing goes with the action steps. There are 1,000,001 ways to achieve a goal. You can take so many different paths and so many different action steps. So just because one person has decided this is the path they're gonna go down to achieve their goals, even if it's the same goal, they have the same exact goal you do, but you have chosen this way, great. This is the way that works better for you, at least for now. You can always change your mind, but try not to compare your pages, your journey, your progress, your action steps with anybody else. That said, tip number 3 is to utilize the communities. If you do feel like you benefit from being surrounded by other people using the same goal planning tools that you are, join those communities. Depending on the goal planner you picked, you might be able to find a Facebook group specific to that goal product. You likely at least can find other people on Instagram who are using the same tool as you, and you can create community there. You also are always welcome to join the Patreon, my goal setting Patreon community, where we share all different types of goal planners and we have people using all different types of tools. But if you feel like that extra support would be helpful for you and you can avoid the comparison trap, I think utilizing community can be a really great way to hold you accountable to using your goal planner. Tip number 4 is to keep it visible. Where can you keep your planner that you're gonna see it all the time? Now, ideally you're keeping it open to some page, but depending on the type of planner you use, right? If you have a bound instead of a coil, or depending on your space, you may not be able to keep it open at all times. But I will say, having my power sheets open and propped up on my desk has made a massive difference in me achieving my goals. So where can you keep your goal planner, even if it's just sitting there? Because if you see it closed somewhere all the time, you're more likely to be like, oh yeah, my goals. Oh, let me check in with my goals. Oh, let me not forget. Let me open to a page, right? So keep your planner visible. Tip number 5 is to remember that it's okay to change your mind. The purpose of goals, at least my feeling on the purpose of goals, is to help you create a life that you love living. That means you get to decide what that looks like. You get to decide what goals are helping you create that life. That means sometimes you might change your mind. Something might happen, something might change in your life, that all of a sudden your goals change. Now, some of them are obvious, right? Like you get engaged, now you have a goal to plan a wedding. Okay, great, that makes sense. You get to change your mind. You have permission to change your mind, even if it's not that obvious of a thing, right? If you decide halfway through the year that this goal that you've been working on, even if you've been making progress, is no longer important to you and worth the time, you're allowed to cross it off and make it something different. Add a goal, take goals away, change the way goals are worded. You are allowed to change your mind literally at any point in this process, and remembering that is going to be helpful when it comes to using your tools. Because sometimes I think, especially, we write down like our yearly goals at the beginning of the year, and then if we decide one quarter in that like that's not a goal that we want, we're like, well, I guess I can't use this goal setting tool anymore because I wrote down that was my annual goal and it's not anymore. Don't go back and look at that page. Who cares? Or rewrite it on a different page and glue it over. It doesn't have to be so rigid that you aren't allowed to change your mind in order to keep using the product that's working for you. Tip number 6 is to make the steps even smaller. I'm already laughing because I know you've heard me say this a million times, y'all. Make your steps even smaller. I know it feels like we're running out of time and we don't have time to achieve our goals, so we have to make our steps so big. But the truth is if we make the steps too big, we won't even do them, and then you will make zero progress. So you are much better off making the steps even smaller and then actually doing them. And the way that comes to fruition in your goal planner is by making them smaller so that you will actually use the planner. Because the problem is if you get really ambitious when you're setting up your planner and you write these massive goals and these massive steps, then when it comes, and when I say massive, I don't mean, I did a whole video on big goals versus small goals. I mean like time consuming, massive. When it comes time to actually work on them, you're gonna be like, well, I don't have time for that. I can't possibly do that whole step. And then you will just close the planner and put it away and not make any progress on your goals. The truth is we are so much better at overestimating what we can get done rather than underestimating what we can get done. In fact, there's a quote that I really like by Matthew Kelly. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day, underestimate what they can do in a month. We overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. Well, we're not talking decades right now. For now, we are just talking days, weeks, and months and years. So starting with the year, for the whole year, we typically overestimate. That's a place where we overestimate. So when you're setting up your annual goals in your new goal planner, think about making it smaller, making it even a little bit smaller. And the worst thing that could happen is that you achieve it and then you go on or you do more, right? I know there's that quote that's like, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Yeah, but like, if you know that you can't hit the moon, you'll probably give up before you even take off, right? So I would rather you aim for the stars. And then if you do hit the stars and you have a little bit more, you can go a little bit more. But at least if you make it something that you're not overestimating, you make it smaller, you are way more likely to utilize your products and make progress on your goals. And tip number 7, last but certainly not least, is you're going to have to let go of perfection. If you are going to utilize a goal planner and make progress on your goals in this new year, you are going to have to let go of it looking perfect, of the process being perfect. I very much, when I first started using the power sheets, was like, well, I'm gonna check all the things off and I'm gonna have all the check marks and it's gonna look perfect all the time. And it just doesn't happen. I definitely don't check everything off. If you've watched any of my goal check-in videos, I am always missing days and weeks. There are times that I cross things off. There are times that I add things in later. I have had to learn that it doesn't have to look perfect and be perfect all the time to be useful. Now, I understand when it comes to aesthetics, you're like, well, but if it looks pretty, I'm more likely to use it. I get it. I'm the same way. So I always strive for it to look nice at the beginning, right? I do my best to estimate how much time I'm gonna have, so I'm not overestimating, and I do my best to make it look pretty at the beginning. But as I go throughout the month, I let go of it continuing to look so perfect, right? I'm okay if I have to cross things off. I'm okay if I don't get all of the check marks. I've learned to let go of the planner itself being absolutely perfect all the time and focusing on the progress that I'm making on those goals. So hopefully you found those tips helpful regardless of which goal planner you've chosen to use. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching. Whatever the cadence is for your Pacific planner,